Welcome to the Purposepreneur Podcast with K. Francis Smith.
Hey everybody, this is K. Francis Smith, the Purposepreneur, and I want to welcome you to the Purposepreneur Show. Here we help people find fun, fulfill their purpose, and it's all about business and purpose. We have been covering the one and only, the world-renowned, the world-famous, the legendary world changer, Steve Jobs. Man, what an amazing story this man has. It has blessed my life. Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me. If you don't know the Steve Jobs story, you need to get to know the Steve Jobs story. Here it is. It's a man who started off in a garage. Him and his buddy started in a garage. This is the man who invented all of this technology we're using right now. Now, some people say he stole it from Xerox. Maybe he did. Well, that was a smart move. Because, boy, what he did with Xerox, they might not have been able to do. They came out with the prototype. He got access. We talked about what access does last episode. This is a part 2 of a Steve Jobs cover called The Dreamer That Changed the World, right? He changed the world. I want you to know you can change the world. There's something in you that gives you the ability to literally change someone's life, but you have to learn to tap into it. So we're going to go into this story about a CEO who had humble beginnings, started in a garage. The company started to grow. They had great capacity, but they needed leadership capacity. And what he did was he had to make a strategic hire. Whenever you're in business, there are times where you have to hire. That made sense. H-I-R-E, H-I-G-H-E-R, hire. So he made a hire, and we're going to see what he did. Let's check out this hire that Mr. Steve Jobs made at Apple.
To bring their ideas to life, the Apple team needed capital. Jobs convinced angel investor Mike Markkula to invest around $90,000 and a line of credit in the fledgling company. It was exactly what they needed to create their new computer, the Apple II.
What was revolutionary about the Apple II was its use of color, the fact it had a built-in keyboard, and it was the first one to look like a consumer device. And so it was a huge success. It was an astounding success right from the beginning.
Steve came to me one day and he said, "You realize our stock is worth more than our parents have made in their lifetime." I was stunned. What the heck? How can you have so much? And then 6 months later, you have 10 times more.
They were the stars of Silicon Valley and the cover boys for a new industry. Michael Moritz is a former Time magazine reporter and a legendary Silicon Valley venture capitalist.
There's always that sense of anxiety and tension associated with the question, how can we possibly follow this?
In 1979, in a stock deal reportedly worth $1 million, Steve Jobs was allowed access to Xerox PARC, the company's famed research and development laboratory. Jobs and his team saw the future here, the way computers would be used, including the use of graphics and a small device that had not yet been revealed to the outside world, a mouse.
And you'd see 2 programs at once, and I was stunned. And you'd see 3 programs at once, and I thought, oh my God, once you have this machine, you're never going to want to go back. It's a one-way door. Your computers are going to be this way, and you'll never go back.
Leander Caney is the editor of the blog Cult of Mac and the author of the book Inside Steve's Brain.
Xerox had invented the entire paradigm of modern computing, but they had no idea what they were sitting on.
But Jobs did. He wanted to bring the graphical user interface to Apple Computer. But first, he had to deal with a power shift going on inside Apple. The Apple board of directors wanted an experienced executive to be president of the company. Jobs interviewed dozens of candidates before he focused on someone from outside the tech world, Pepsi CEO John Sculley.
Steve, in those days, he had long black hair and very piercing palmetto berry eyes. He looked down at his running shoes, and then he looked up at me, and he said, "Do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life, or do you want to come with me and change the world?" And it was like someone just knocked the wind out of my stomach. A few weeks later, I was working at Apple.
Okay, so we see that hires are important. So he hires a guy. The guy has the capacity. The guy is highly competent. He's got the chemistry, but he didn't find him in tech space. He found him at Pepsi Cola. Now, at that time, Pepsi Cola was at the top of the food chain. I used to drink Pepsi back then. They were better than Coke. But there's something about having the right people in the right positions. So he brings in a president from Pepsi Cola, hits him with the question, do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life? Or do you want to come with me and change the world? What conviction? Do you have that kind of conviction about what you're doing? Let me give you a hint. If you really want to be impactful, if you really want to make a lot of money, you really want to have longevity, try getting into business in areas that change people's lives. Boom! Shake the room. 1993, Will Smith. My God, I'm dating myself. Listen to me. He makes a strategic hire from outer space, as it were, brings him in. Now he's in tech space. And a strange thing happens. Man, business will get you into some stuff. And watch what this hire does. Now, this is interesting. It's interesting because the same man that he brought into this space, that he's changing his life, they're changing the world together. The man no longer has to sell sugar water. That's what he called Pepsi. Hilarious to me. He reduced it to the least common existence. Selling sugar water with a little bit of acidic content, right? And watercolor and all that kind of stuff. But nevertheless, sugar water. He's now a part of the company, and some things happen that change the dynamics of the relationship and the dynamics of Steve's relationship with the company that he founded. Check out what happens with this hire. Take us in.
For Apple Computer to thrive, they also needed another successful product. Jobs thought he had it in a powerful business computer called the Lisa. But the Apple board of directors refused to give him the project. Jobs threw himself into another project, the Macintosh. He felt this would break open the market.
Or rather, to characterize Steve's brain properly, or rather, the market ought to break open, if the market had any sense.
He set up shop in an outlying building in the Apple complex, and his intense drive began to take its toll on the Mac team.
People would bring him work to look at. It would be 1 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes Steve said, I'm not even going to look at it. And they, well, Steve, I've worked on this thing for 25 hours. And he said, I know, but it's not good enough. Go back and work on it some more.
Some of them just wound up just quitting in disgust. Some of them wound up saying they'd never work for Steve again. They just couldn't.
When the exhausted team finished, they had a revolutionary new computer.
Many of us have been working on Macintosh for over 2 years now, and it has turned out insanely great.
Guy Kawasaki was the software evangelist on the original Mac.
Like 60 seconds after I saw the demo of Macintosh, it was so cool. Angels started to sing. I mean, it was beautiful experience.
This was supposed to be the computer that tamed the complexity of everything associated with the world of computing to make it available, as Steve would say, for mere mortals.
It's the day we celebrate.
With his intuitive marketing sense, Jobs unveiled the Mac with a spellbinding commercial aimed at IBM, the leader in computers. It aired nationally only once, on Super Bowl Sunday in January of 1984. But the impact was explosive.
We estimated we got $45 million of free publicity of it being run over and over again by television networks all over the world because no one had ever seen a commercial like this before.
But the excitement surrounding the Mac launch didn't translate into sales, and Jobs' standing at Apple became the big question.
He ran amok at Apple. He cost the company a lot of money. So Steve was considered to be wasteful. He was considered to be self-indulgent. He was the largest shareholder, but also a kind of a brat.
The thinking was, well, Macintosh had not penetrated business. We need a more mature leadership. some adult supervision to run the company.
By 1985, tension at Apple rose as an internal power struggle threatened to tear the company apart.
I said, Steve, we're a public company, and I have to tell the board where we are in terms of inventory, in terms of sales performance, and we're in trouble.
When it reached the point where he identified Scully as a rival, he decided he had to take Scully out. And much to Steve's surprise, the board sided with Scully.
The knee-jerk reaction of conventional people is to elbow what they see as disruptive forces aside. And Steve, the co-founder of Apple, was unchivalrously ushered to the exit.
Hey, being fired almost destroyed him. They threw him out of his own company. I mean, he thought it was unbelievable.
Jobs quickly regrouped, taking 5 top managers to start a computer company called Next.
There were all kinds of ideas, and it turned out that he wanted to go back and once again create the most insanely great computer, something that would help change the world. Very modest ambitions.
Okay, now we're learning that when you hire someone, you have to be careful where you put them. Because he put this gentleman in a position that he had so much power that he won the board over to himself. And when Steve was viewed as a brat, privileged, overbearing, whatever you want to call it, they literally mounted up on this man, jousted and ousted him from his own company. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm telling you this. Listen, I don't know about you, but I will tell you this. That's a hard pill to swallow. Your blood, your sweat, your tears, and they come in and push you out of your own company? For real? Seriously? And I'm just supposed to leave. And this is the part of the movie where the guy usually goes postal. You know what that means to go postal? Do they go postal anymore? Or am I dating myself? It used to be back in the day where you worked for the USPS, the United States Postal Service, and they used to fire people, and the postal workers used to come back and shoot the people. So hence the term going postal. Now, I wouldn't go postal, I don't think, but when somebody takes your hard-earned, that you started from the garage, man, and a gentleman comes from selling sugar water into your space, and now you're unemployed? Are you kidding me? Are you serious? But somehow or another, there's a lesson in there. Never forget, whenever you find yourself in a bitter situation or a backward situation or a situation where you feel like you've lost or blown an opportunity, know there's always a lesson in losing. Lessons that need to be learned. Blessings that need to be apprehended. You need to understand that inside of every failure, there is success, but you've got to be able to unearth it. You've got to be able to glean and learn and grow from your mistakes. So let's allow Steve Jobs the privilege of sharing what this moment did for his life.
I was lucky. I found what I loved to do early in life. Woz and I started Apple in my parents' garage when I was 20. We worked hard, and in 10 years, Apple had grown from just the two of us in a garage into a $2 billion company with over 4,000 employees. We just released our finest creation, the Macintosh, a year earlier, and I just turned 30. And then I got fired. How can you get fired from a company you started? Well, as Apple grew, we hired someone who I thought was very talented to run the company with me. And for the first year or so, things went well. But then our visions of the future began to diverge, and eventually we had a falling out. When we did, our board of directors sided with him. And so at 30, I was out, and very publicly out. What had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone, and it was devastating. I really didn't know what to do for a few months. I felt that I had let the previous generation of entrepreneurs down, that I had dropped the baton as it was being passed to me. I met with David Packard and Bob Noyce and tried to apologize for screwing up so badly. I was a very public failure, and I even thought about running away from the Valley. But something slowly began to dawn on me. I still loved what I did. The turn of events at Apple had not changed that one bit. I'd been rejected, but I was still in love. And so I decided to start over. I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life.
I hear you, Steve. I hear you. It's firing is the best thing that ever happened to you, being fired. Losing your biggest deal ever is the best thing that ever happened to you. They say hindsight is 20/20. And I'm sure you can say that after you've made a few leaps and bounds, after you've accomplished a few extra things. But I believe the challenge with most people is that they believe their last thing was their best thing. Let me tell you the truth. You haven't seen your best work yet. You haven't seen your biggest situation yet. You haven't closed your biggest deal yet. You haven't built your biggest business. You have not done the greatest work yet. So don't worry about what you've lost. Steve Jobs is teaching us a lesson. Man, you can take lemons and create a lemonade stand. So he gets out of it and he says, then I went on and did Pixar. Can we get on over to Pixar? I'm just excited about checking out this next chapter because it gets more exciting as we go. What if I told you right now that the worst thing that ever happened to you was actually the best thing that ever could have happened to you? What if I told you where you are right now is the best place you could possibly be if you can learn from where you've come and figure out what to do with it? You know what I've learned about people? Everyone is useful for something. You just got to know what to do with them. Every experience has significant value if you learn how to extract the value from the circumstance. Never write anything off as a bad deal or that was just a loss. No. Every loss is a lesson to learn from, and every delay works in your favor. I'm going to say that one more time. Every loss is a lesson to learn from, and every delay works in your favor. You are exactly where you are supposed to be, and you are designed to do great things. I am inspired by Steve Jobs. This man shows me that it's not over until you quit, and he didn't quit all the way to the end. So let's check out what happens. Pixar, let's go.
The company struggled to find a market for its expensive new computer. Jobs faced a tough choice: abandon the computer or face bankruptcy.
It was a big deal when they realized that very few people were buying their hardware, but it turned out that their software was just breathtaking.
The decision? Ditch the highly designed computer and focus instead on selling what makes it run, the company's elegant operating system.
I think that period during which he wandered in the wilderness was a period full of adversity. And I think people come back from adversity. If they can return from adversity, they come back harder, sharper, and far more geared for battle.
In a 2005 commencement address at Stanford University, Steve Jobs revealed for the first time some personal details about his early life.
My biological mother was a young, unwed graduate student, and she decided to put me up for adoption. My biological mother found out later that my mother had never graduated from college and that my father had never graduated from high school. She refused to sign the final adoption papers. She only relented a few months later when my parents promised that I would go to college. This was the start in my life.
He was raised by parents who adopted him. They were blue-collar, salt-of-the-earth people. They were good parents, but they weren't intellectuals. Later in life, he discovered that his biological parents were intellectuals, and his biological sister, she turned out to be a brilliant novelist, Mona Simpson.
In 1991, at age 36, Jobs started his own family when he married Laureen Powell, They had 3 children in addition to his daughter from a previous relationship. Jobs called these years after Apple his most creative and personally fulfilling. His professional life was also changing dramatically. Right after his ouster from Apple, Jobs bought a company from Lucasfilms that would become a household name.
This little animation company called Pixar.
He hired John Lasseter, an animator from Disney. Their goal was to create fully computer-animated feature films, and Hollywood was interested.
Pixar made a deal with Disney to work together to make Toy Story.
I actually had made the deal with him at the time. He came into the movie business, his instincts were impeccable. Put his money up, his own personal money, he was on the line.
In 1995, Jobs' investment in Pixar was about to pay off in a big way.
I am Buzz Lightyear. I come in peace.
Oh, I'm so glad you're not a dinosaur!
Toy Story, Pixar's first feature film, was a blockbuster and became 1995's highest-grossing U.S. movie.
Pixar really created probably the most successful genre in the movie business today, which is CG animation.
When Pixar went public, Steve Jobs became a billionaire.
All right, now it's possible to land on your feet because the man went ahead, started Pixar, bought Pixar, $10 million? Jumped into Pixar, $10 million. This is that, he jumped into another man's dream. Watch what we learn. We learn that the word of God is true. What you make happen for someone else, God will make happen for you. The principles, let me tell you about the principles in the word of God. Hear me. The principles apply even if you're not saved. All right, let me prove it. Gravity. If I go and walk off of a 10-story building, 10 times out of 10, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to hit the ground like a brick. 10 times out of 10, gravity's going to pull me down. It's the principles, not the person. That's called absolute truth. Ooh. Kudos. I'm talking, I'm working. Let me work. So when you see a man going to make it happen for someone else, he invested. He said, I jumped and bought into this thing spiritually and financially. Did you hear him? Did you hear him? Did you hear him? He said, I bought into this Pixar deal. This is this animation, this new digital animation where, remember back in the day, you used to have to draw the character to do animation and you drew them with each step and then you had to make like a booklet and it took millions of pages just to make one little show, Tom and Jerry. Well, guess what? They made these graphics digitally and they made a killing. And out of nowhere, a man who was talking about computers finds a way to get into animation, does Toy Story. Wasn't their first movie, but it was their best one. And he starts to talk about how Apple was not a success on the first go-round. Pixar wasn't a success on the first go-round. So what makes us think that on the first go, it's always going to go the way we want it to? You've got to be willing to go through the process. And by the end of the story, this chapter of the story, the man comes up a billionaire off of animation. Woo! Man, so that means that even if you've missed it on your first one, or your second, or your third, you can still make it if you surround yourself with the right people, and if you surround yourself with dreamers. It wasn't even his dream that got him there. It was someone else's dream. What if your million, your billion, your success, your destiny is tied to someone else's dream? All of us are looking to do our own thing, but if we do it independently, we don't have the velocity, the critical mass. We don't have what am I looking for? What's the word that I'm looking for? The momentum, the strength, or the capacity to do the great thing. The great thing is in a team. It's in a team. Think about it. Think about it. If I'm one person and I work for 8 hours, that's only 8 hours. But if I get 10 people to work with me, that's 80 hours in one day. Hello, I'm waking you up. Because what's missing in your life is the team. And guess what? The team ought to know that the moment the dream comes alive for one, the dream came alive for all, because everybody played a role in the dream and everybody gets to eat. All right. So said that part, and I'm excited about this story because not only that, he became a billionaire, but the story takes another turn, and we'll get to that next episode. We're going to make this a 3-part cover, and we'll finish it up next time. But let me tell you something. It gets better and better and better. This story has inspired me. And when you study the life of a person of such ambition, drive, knowledge, innovation, substance, power, conviction, tenacity, courage, belief, it makes you up your level up as well. So I'm inspired. I'm motivated. I am informed. I am literally in a position where I'm poised to do something really great, because you cannot cover the lives of successful billionaires and business people. Even if there are failures in their life, you can learn from the good things, chew the fish, spit out the bones. And I believe I've learned a lot so far, and we've got so much more to learn. I'm going to pull some nuggets from this man's life. So this is K. Francis Smith, and I want to tell you, it has been a wonderful time just sharing and watching and learning from the life of this great innovator we call the late, great Steve Jobs. And we're going to get out of here, but I want to tell you this. Until next time, may all of your dreams become a reality. May you enjoy success in all you do, and may you live your life on purpose.